Hi, this is Emerald and welcome to the Diamond Net, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to break the cycle of self-sabotage. Alright, so if you're a person who's struggling with self-sabotage, procrastination, playing it small, holding yourself back, you know that it's very, very frustrating. And so in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to break the cycle of self-sabotage at the roots. So what is the key to breaking the cycle of self-sabotage? Well, the key is to trust yourself. And to explain why that's the key, I first have to explain the cycle of self-sabotage first. So the first part in the cycle of self-sabotage is that you mistrust yourself. And so because you mistrust yourself, you feel like you need to force yourself to do the things that you want to do. You have to force yourself to be productive. You have to force yourself to move in the direction of your goals. You don't trust that there will be a natural bottom-up motivation in that direction, and so you feel like you have to actually create an ideal in your mind and force yourself to conform to that ideal. And the next part in the cycle, because you were just trying to control yourself, you rebel from yourself. So you rebel from your top-down control. And that's when you avoid the work, you procrastinate, you go and scroll on social media for hours, and then what happens is that you look at yourself and you look at that behavior and you go like, oh, see, I knew I couldn't trust myself. And then the cycle starts back over. You don't trust yourself, you try to control yourself, you rebel from yourself, you see your own rebellion as a sign that you can't trust yourself, and then you try to control yourself even more and you rebel from yourself even more. And so on and so on and so on. And so that's the cycle of self-sabotage. And so the key to breaking that cycle is to, instead of mistrusting yourself and then trying to control yourself because you don't trust yourself, instead break the cycle by trusting yourself. That means that you have to look at all of your rebellious behavior, all of the procrastination, all of the self-sabotage and say, maybe I'm not just lazy. Maybe I'm not just procrastinating. Maybe those are surface level symptoms of a deeper reason. And I'm going to trust that that reason is a very important reason. So we trust ourselves by saying, if I am self-sabotaging, if I am standing in my own way, there is a good reason for that to be happening. I'm just not conscious of that reason yet. And that's where the topic of shadow work becomes very relevant. And there's a self-trust based question that you can ask yourself to get deeper to understand the underlying unconscious patterns that are causing your self-sabotage behavior. And that question is, how am I trying to protect or serve myself by getting in the way of my goals? Or how am I trying to protect or serve myself by procrastinating? And when we answer this question, we can automatically rule out that, oh, I'm just doing that because I'm lazy, or I'm just doing that to mess myself over. Instead, we can actually look at the real, deeper, underlying root cause reason why we are sabotaging ourselves. And it's important to know for this self-trust that any kind of self-sabotaging behavior, any kind of problem behavior on the surface, always deep down is trying to serve our own best interests. And that's because our shadow, our unconscious parts of ourself are still ourselves. So it has a fundamental self-interest. That means that your shadow is trying to serve you all of the time, even if it's totally getting in the way of your conscious goals. And there's oftentimes a message that the shadow is trying to send you as the conscious personality, the part of yourself that you call me or I, is usually trying to send you a message about things that it needs you to shift or change in order for it to get on board with your goals. For example, let's say that I want to start a business, but I keep procrastinating and I keep self-sabotaging. If I'm engaged in the cycle of self-sabotage, I'm going to be like, ooh, I knew I can't trust myself. I'm so lazy. I need to control myself and make myself do it. And then I would rebel from that, and then I would start mistrusting myself again, and the whole cycle would start. But instead, if I get curious and I trust that there is an unconscious benevolent reason, a self-interested reason why I'm standing in the way of my business goal, then I can ask myself, how am I trying to protect or serve myself by standing in the way of this goal? And then maybe upon deeper inquiry, I find out that there is a part of me that's unconscious to me that resides in the shadow that's trying to hold me back from starting this business because it fears visibility, because there's a fear of being perceived as an imposter. And so now I know the reason. And so now I, as the conscious personality, have to figure out how can I resolve that? Like, so I have to think, okay, well, what's so bad about being an imposter? Like, what would happen then? It's like, okay, well, if I were an imposter, maybe that would mean I was a bad person. And it's like, okay, well, if I was a bad person, why would that be so bad to be a bad person? Then nobody's going to want to be around me. It's like, okay, well, what happens then? And then maybe I run into the same thing again. Oh, no one's going to want to be around me. And so now I've officially found the root of what it is that I'm trying to avoid by standing in the way of my goals to be a business owner. Or let's say that I want to go out and I want to socialize more. So I have I want to build more friendships. I want to build community around myself. But I find myself holding myself back. I cancel my plans last minute. I isolate myself. I find myself putting more and more focus toward individualistic endeavors, even though my goal is to connect more with other people. And so instead of mistrusting that and saying, oh no, I shouldn't be doing that, I should be matching up to this standard, and then beating myself up for not matching up to my goals, instead what I want to do is I want to say, oh, interesting, curious, there must be a really good reason why I'm holding myself back from socializing. And so then I ask myself, how am I trying to protect or serve myself by holding myself back from making community connections? And as I look deeper, I find out that my boundaries are inadequate. I have a hard time saying no, and I have a hard time communicating my boundaries or even knowing what my boundaries are. And so upon deeper inspection, what I find is that there is an unconscious part of me that resides in the shadow that's deeply aware that I lack boundaries. So maybe it's the case that I have a hard time saying no. I have a hard time actually even knowing my boundaries or communicating them. And so what's happening is that that part of me is holding me back from socializing and essentially creating passive boundaries through distance, instead of me being able to bring out active boundaries to keep me emotionally safe when I am interacting with other people. And so what I would have to do as the conscious personality, the part of myself that I call me or I, is I have to build stronger boundaries in order for me to feel safer and more comfortable socializing. Otherwise, I'm going to continue to isolate myself. Or let's say that I have a goal that I want to get in shape and I want to lose weight and I want my body to look a particular way. And maybe it's the case that there's something that's kind of misaligned with how I'm approaching that goal. Maybe it's the case that I feel like, oh, I can only love myself, or I can only be confident if my body looks a particular way. And so maybe I'm holding myself back. Maybe I start on a crash diet for 3 days and then I just totally binge after that. And what's happening there is that there's a deeper part of me that's aware that I am actually moving out of alignment from what it is that I'm really looking for. What I'm looking for is confidence. What I'm looking for is self-love. And having my body look a particular way isn't the thing that's actually going to solve that for me. Now, if my goal were to be healthy or to get in shape, to feel really strong, then the goal is aligned. But if my goal is, oh, I need this in order to love myself, or I need this in order to feel confident, what's going to happen is that there's going to be an unconscious part of me that's going to hold me back from that and cause me to be in that cycle of a self-sabotage, because I'll be trying to make myself conform to a particular standard, and then it's going to rebel from that and try to go in the exact opposite direction. And I can discover this again by asking myself, how am I trying to protect or serve myself by holding myself back from this goal? Now, if you'd like to learn more about how to let go of self-sabotage, I actually have a free webinar. It's called 3 Shadow Work Secrets to Get Out of Your Own Way and Reach Your Full Potential Without Having to Fight Yourself, and the link is down below in the description box. Also, the enrollment period for my group program Shadow Work for Self-Sabotage is almost closed, so go ahead and click the link down below to learn more about that if you're interested in joining. And have a great day and keep becoming more you.